So good to be here, holding this space, filling it with love for our shared inspiration, Chrissy. Thanks for this beautiful day. Much thanks for being here on this sacred Lekwungen territory to do what we knew we had to do, which is to honor a great warrior. Chrissy's legacy will live on in all of us, and we need to come together to be able to acknowledge what that is. For each of us, it's great to be able to do that together. I also wrote down some of my thoughts. And I felt all right about doing it because Chrissy actually would write down her thoughts. I remember being at some rallies and Chrissy would pull out her notes, and I was like, oh wow, if Chrissy can pull out her notes, I can pull out my notes. I want to give my deepest condolences to David and Jacob, who are here with us. May the love for your mother that will fill this space today surround you and protect you. It's really an honor to meet you. Much love. I knew Chrissy from her tireless and outstanding work as a grassroots community leader in the homeless encampments here in so-called Vic. I'm so glad that we can come together like this to hold space for people to share our love, our sadness, and our loss. And to honor the outstanding person Chrissy will always be to us. Of course, many of the things that we can say about people we love after they pass may be things we never said to them to their face because praise was not something that they were looking for. But the often sudden and unexpected passing of loved ones reminds us to take the time to tell the people we care about how we feel about them. It's comforting to be here in the company of people who have known Chrissy and who have been touched by the rare spirit of the unrelenting badass warrior that she was, by her power and her presence, her active caring. Her deep compassion, her courage not to shrink in the face of power and injustice, and her determination to bring a better life for the most marginalized and disadvantaged members of our community, and to every day resist the daily normalized, racialized, genderized, and class violence of a colonial capitalist system that systematically prioritizes wealth and power over people and the web of life that sustains us all. Not only did Chrissy dream the possible of a society that upholds the basic human rights of housing for all, but she did everything within her power to make that dream come true. She walked the talk more than anyone I have ever met. She went the full distance. She sacrificed her comfort zone to be hands-on in organizing community amongst the folks with nowhere else to go than the street. She always upped the ante and stuck around for when shit hit the fan, and took the arrest to take her stand, refusing to cooperate with unjust authority. She operated with dignity and grace. No matter how messy things got, no matter how many months she was sleeping in a tent in the most foul weather, she always looked her best and dressed with flair. She was a fierce frontline advocate who chose the lived experience of someone unhoused so that she can be in true solidarity with the people who cannot access a brutally exclusive housing market, becoming more unaffordable with each passing election cycle. That she strived to address the housing unaffordability crisis by living rough herself and gathering the unhoused together into mutual aid camps, I believe is the highest expression of both advocacy and solidarity. Chrissy, as an Indigenous woman, uprooted from her Nuhawk community in the 1970s scoop, and growing up in a white supremacist culture that has sought to destroy everything Indigenous, had the strength to still be able to rise above the forces of oppression to directly confront colonial property relations at the very root of the housing crisis. Standing with Chrissy, you were standing against the whole 500-year-old system of genocidal land theft that has displaced people since first contact, instituted a system of private property and market economics that has turned land and a roof over a family's head into a commodity that all too many cannot afford. For Chrissy, who knew all too well that before colonization there was no homelessness, that everybody in a community was cared for, nobody was left alone to fend for themselves with no support, that leadership assumed responsibility for the wellness of the people, not just the people on top. She knew that safe, decent, and affordable housing for all on these lands, especially the 1/3 of the homeless population that is Indigenous, is a form of decolonization. Chrissy Brett gave her life for social justice, spearheading and sustaining pop-up and long-term encampments at Superintendent City, Camp Namagans, Strathcona, and Oppenheimer Parks in so-called Victoria and Vancouver. These direct action camps resisted the routine displacement of the unhoused by law enforcement and provided a safe sense of home and a political voice to people who have neither. I first met Chrissy at the Superintendent City, where I would bring firewood in my truck and straw for the mud pass. I was instantly struck by her warmth and lovingness. She had a way of greeting people with affection, literally a hug on the first time you met, and without judgment, and making us feel that we belonged, that everyone belonged. Through her warmth and her mothering love and the way she can gather people together, she was an extraordinary community builder, like we have never really seen on this land that I know of anyways. She cared for everyone as if they were her own family. She was loving, she was tough, she was creative, and she was effective. She would maintain a strong negotiating stance in dealing with authorities. She knew that without direct action in tent cities, political mobilization for the homeless to uphold the federal Supreme Court ruling on the right to sleep, that people in the streets would be continually facing the daily harassment and displacement by law enforcement and be more at risk of dying from overdoses. Literally, from her tent, she advocated and negotiated on an individual case basis for housing placement for people living in tents as authorities worked around the clock to try and break the camps with injunctions and arrests. I would say that she achieved more results in getting affordable housing and supported housing units to open than any housing bureaucrat in the entire province. She left a lasting legacy that will always be remembered, and it is truly an honor to be here today with all of you to share the gifts that Chrissy left in our hearts and to honor her for the strong warrior, life giver, matriarch, mother, grandmother, and change maker that she was, and to acknowledge her life work and huge contribution to community on these Coast Salish territories. Everyone has their time to go, but the truth is that Chrissy left way too young, like too many people do, because of shitty social conditions. A society that kills those with negligence that it wrongly considers negligible, missing and murdered, fentanyl deaths, poverty and racism and misogyny. It isn't right. In the spirit of Chrissy, we all got to keep coming together the way Chrissy pulled people together and carry on her work and keep up the fight. May her memory always provide the strength to continue the struggles for basic human rights and justice that she gave her life for. Thank you, dear Chrissy.